Now we're on. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so let's go over this as we shift to baseball here. We're going to do our narrative here. Top 10 second basemen in 2025. So definitely we're going to go over that. We've been doing our top 10 list. And we're going to do it today here, the top 10 second basemen here in 2025. So we're definitely going to go ahead and get that squared away. Now, who are the best in the league at this position? There's always separation on these lists for me. There's always guys that are at the top, like any list, top 10, and these guys, there's a little separator. So I always get to the separator as well. Defense, I always say this used to be more of a defensive position. Now we're focusing more on offense nowadays at this position. Guys hitting higher, a lot of bigger guys at this position. Used to have guys like Frank Wright and Frank White and Bill Ripken, guys just all defense. Now, not as much of that nowadays. Offense as well. Funny I say that, and we start with the defense. Andres Gimenez, definitely the Gold Glove winner. See him there with the Guardians, now with the Blue Jays. This is totally a nod to his defensive prowess. I think no question about it, he is the best defender on the list here. Definitely wherever he goes, I think the Blue Jays signed him in the offseason. Definitely a guy you're signing for his glove. Definitely a guy who's going to give you Gold Glove second base play. Going to give you some offense. I don't think he's bad offensively, but this is what you're signing him for. I think definitely you could put him in the top 10 because he's so good defensively. Ha-Seong Kim, last year with the Padres, still unsigned. I think he's the top 10 wherever he signs. I think he might sign with Boston or New York or whatever it is. He might sign with them. I definitely like him offensively. This is more already starting the list as well. I'm surprised he doesn't have a team. I thought he might have signed with the Dodgers, but I definitely think, everybody else is signing with the Dodgers. We'll get to that. But Kim, I think, is a good offensive player as well. I think he has great value at second. He could play other positions, but I think somebody signs him at second, they're going to have great value there. Here's a young guy, Luis Garcia Jr. for the Nationals. The Nationals, these guys are coming up. Luis Garcia, Dylan Cruz. Their minor league system is starting to bear fruit. A couple of years losing, the rebuild is coming to an end. This guy is a fantastic hitter. I think his power is going to surprise people. This guy definitely can hit 20 home runs, 25 home runs going forward. Definitely tremendous power going forward. This even might be rating him a little low, but it's because it's a bit of a projection. But I love his upside. Love his swing. Love his upside. Luis Garcia Jr. A guy who's going to... This is about right. Byron Scott. Definitely, you could argue he was the best second baseman in the National League last year for the Phillies. I don't think he's a stud in terms of getting better, but definitely, look, good numbers. 15, 25 home runs, 75, 85 RBIs, average around 270. Not a great defender. From what I can see, he looks a little like John Cena, like a little mechanical, like robot at times. But decent enough as well. But definitely offensive production, definitely good protection in a good Phillies lineup. Number 7, the Brewers. Bryce Trang. I think this is a guy like Garcia can be higher than this. Like his bat. This is definitely a guy defensively, but I definitely you see him there, fist up. I think that's kind of like my image of him a lot. Very good situational hitter. I see that a lot. Not always great all the time, but great situationally, decent defensively. I think the ceiling is higher for him, but I think he really good. This guy, more offense. Gleyber Torres, last year with the Yankees, now with the Tigers. I think he's going to get every opportunity with the Tigers. I think that's actually a good move for him. Actually, he's going to get a chance now to be one of their main offensive players for them. Torres can hit. I think he's not good on defense. But I don't think they care. This is a guy who definitely has, in my opinion, he's got potential to really hit 25, 30 home runs, that type of offensive potential. Good offensive player. I really like him there in Detroit. I think the shorter porch in Detroit is interesting for him, so I definitely like Gleyber Torres. Ozzy. Albies. Ozzy, I think, is an outstanding player. The last season wasn't his best season. I thought a lot of the Braves had injury and all that stuff. The Braves have the model I'd love to see the Orioles adapt. They didn't sign a lot of players in the offseason, but what they did was they locked up a lot of their guys long term. Long-term deal for Olsen, long-term deal for Austin Riley, long-term deal for Murphy, long-term deal for Albies. I think he's got a great ceiling. I think he's just got to get his mind right at times. I think he's the only thing, head not in the game at times, not running out ground balls. Sometimes he looks good on defense, sometimes he look like crap on defense. But I think Albies, is outstanding. Down year for this fantastic hitter, Trent Marcus Semien. Kind of the same copy-paste what I just said with the Braves, with the Rangers. I think they kind of had a World Series hangover, didn't play as well, kind of unfocused. So his numbers were down. He wasn't as good last year, but I like Semien. Semien, I think, will bounce back. Towards the end of the year, we kind of saw more of the Semien battling injuries as well, but he's outstanding. A little older now, too, over 30-ish. So a little bit of but I think if he is what we've seen, he's definitely number 3. Jose Altuve's got to get old at some point, right? He is definitely the engine of the Astros. And of all the trading moving, this is not who they're going to move. This is their heart and soul guy. Jose Altuve, outstanding in the field, outstanding at the plate. Not tremendous power, but definitely great power for his size. He's going to hit around 300. He's going to be great defensively, and he's going to be the leader of his team. So definitely there's everything to like about Jose Altuve as an offensive player. I think the Astros, I think when they move him, that's when you'll see the opportunity of them moving back to the pack. But they have Altuve there. Absolutely, he's their heart and soul in the engine. And number 1, this wasn't close. Kendall Marte, if you haven't heard. Marte, his numbers were fantastic. Look, Corbin Carroll, not as good as they had hoped. Maybe last year, kind of came on. I think that the D-backs are an elite team. This is one of the reasons Kendall Marte, Corbin Carroll, and they signed Corbin Burns in the offseason. Marte, I think, could be an MVP of the National League. Tremendous power at the plate. I don't have any question about what this guy's going to do. He's kind of one of these guys. He's always been kind of on these obscure teams. Like had he been in New York or been in Los Angeles or whatever, I think more people would talk about him. But Marte, outstanding, easy choice for best second baseman in the MLB. There you go. So we're going to have this on our Twitter page, social media tomorrow, the top 10 second basemen going into 2025. Couple things real quick. It's official now. Anthony Santander is no longer Baltimore Oriole. He signed with the Blue Jays this week. So good for him. Anthony Santander was the longest tenured Baltimore Oriole that we had. So now I think it's Cedric Mullins. I think it's been with us the longest now since 2018. That's like 7 years. Santander had been with the organization his whole career. So good for him. Blue Jays finally got one. I think this is good for him. I think it's good for Toronto. As quiet as it's kept. When a guy hits 40-plus home runs, it's good to have in your lineup. You could put him right there with right behind Vlad Guerrero. You could hit him anywhere in the order. He's definitely great in the outfield. I definitely think the sabermetric nerds kind of don't like a Santander because the offensive metrics aren't there. Strikes out a lot. OPS isn't, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm old school in the sense, give me some old-fashioned home runs and RBIs. You know he's going to give it to you. And I think he's kind of shed the label of being frail. Had a lot of injuries throughout the course of his career. More recent years, healthier, playing better. So good signing for the Blue Jays as well. Good for Anthony Santander. Really no spot for him on the Orioles this year after the signing of Tyler O'Neill. Dodgers signing all the players. Good way to put the segment. They signed Tanner Scott. They signed Kirby Yates. Look, stop complaining about the Dodgers signing all the players. Look, sick and tired of it. Stop saying that, signing all the players. If they're signing all the players and there's something else going on with the rest of the 29 teams, like a lot of these teams with low money, you're getting $69 million a year on average from all the TV networks, just from TV money. Before you put a bat to glove, you're getting $69 million from the combined ESPN, Turner, Fox package. $69 million in national TV revenue. So most teams are getting that, even though I think that's in flux with the whole Bally Sports thing that's going on. Let's say you're even getting that locally. I think about half the teams are getting that. About another 50 million, 60 million. Obviously, the Dodgers, Mets, they're blowing out the water with more than that. But spend the money. Stop saying that they don't have any money. You can't spend $400 million, $500 million, $600 million like a lot of these teams. No, you can't. Maybe you don't have that. But you certainly have $100+ million in TV revenue that you can spend. That's a lot of money you can spend on players. That's before you get gate. That's before you get concessions. That's before you sell the zillion bobbleheads. That's before you do any of that. Tanner Scott could have signed with the Marlins. That's just not how baseball thinks sometimes. Their payroll's like $42 million. They couldn't have been in on that. I mean, what is that? I mean, so I don't think because of the TV revenue for a lot of teams, a lot of them are connected with Bally Sports, Diamond Sports, that a lot of that's going away for them. So they're a little nervous about making contracts, which is why you see the Dodgers signing 3 closers and 3 aces and all that. They're the team that's making all the bidding. I think that is what's going on. So I see a lot of fans mad about that. The salary cap, you can be mad about it all you want, but that's not on them. You're supposed to, life is like you don't just, there are winners and losers. There are people that bid, spend the money. Orioles have chosen to be conservative. David Rubenstein is worth $20 billion to $30 billion, whatever it is. Come on. So if they're signing all the players, then, that's again, I'm not against a cap in baseball at all, but all this, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Well, they don't have to do it. You can sign some of these guys. You can do it. So there you go. Fantasy baseball predictions for the Orioles. So for those of you that out there that play fantasy baseball, what we used to call back in the day rotisserie baseball, we're going to take our Orioles conversation here. For those of you out there playing fantasy, how are the Orioles, what you should do drafting wise as far as with fantasy baseball. Now with this, I went ahead and took what I actually do with fantasy baseball, 10-team league, auto draft league, where you go around to the teams and draft, and, where you have to draft each player. So how are the Orioles in particular, if you're looking at Baltimore Orioles in particular in fantasy baseball, how do you think the Orioles are going to do as well? So the Orioles. Here's your starting group here for the Orioles. Adley Rutschman. Adley, I think, would have been higher last year. I think some people with the projections on Adley might have had him in the top 15, top 20. So I don't think he's that high. I think you're like in the 5th or 6th round, top 50 player. If you're adding up catchers, if you're looking at that position, he's a top 3 catcher. I think definitely William Contreras, and probably Cal Raleigh as far as fantasy. That's it. Adley is definitely top shelf as far as that goes. Ryan Mountcastle, is he still going to be with the Orioles? This is going to be much later. I think his value actually might be higher if he gets traded. I don't think he's going to get traded between opening day. But he's definitely over 200, 17, 18. Definitely a guy you pick up in the later rounds. I don't think you pick him early. He's going to be splitting with O'Hearn, kind of the same. I think it depends. I think O'Hearn's like 15, 16. I think that's not a bad pick, 15, 16 round. Definitely, again, over 200. Getting both would be a good idea. Because a lot of times they're going to split as well. O'Hearn's going to hit against the righties, Mounty against the lefties. I think, but they're later rounds, guys. You can look at later. Jackson Holiday's very interesting. Very interesting. How much do you believe in Jackson Holiday? I'm not overly sure he's going to be on the opening day roster for sure. So I'm going later with Jackson. I don't see him high on a lot of the draft boards. I think 17th, 18th. I think if you have a keeper league and you can still do it, I think it still might be worth doing it. Because I think definitely we all think he's going to be a star at some point. But over 200 early, if it's a standard league, it's about 17th or 18th as far as like overall positions way down. But I think if you have a keeper league, he might be worth. Here's a guy I have much higher value on than the traditional Jordan Westburg. Third base is a good position for him. I think he's top 10 of the third baseman that you want to pick, about 90 to 100. I've seen him later than that, but if you're picking Jordan Westburg in a draft in the top 70, 80, I got no problem with that. Definitely what he's done. Already made an all-star team, so that's not a bad pick. Guys here late as well. Outfielders, they're kind of all the same. 10th or 11th round, 10th, 11th round, Cedric Mullins, Colton Cowser, and Tyler O'Neill. Yeah, they're going to start in the outfield for you. I think Mullins, I think, is probably the one I'd be the most bearish on. Cowser might be the one the most bullish on. Cowser, I think the ceiling with him, he's probably going to start for you in right field. I think he might be a guy kind of like Holiday where you take him lower and it really pays dividends for you. So right around the 10th, 11th round as well. As far as outfielders, definitely in the 300s as well. But I definitely think that there's a guy like Cowser you definitely have a good upside with as well. Tyler O'Neill is a good pick for this year as well. I think probably he's going to be the most productive offensively of these guys if he can stay healthy. And Kobe Mayo, I think if you have a keeper league, if you keep guys, definitely you got to look at Kobe Mayo in the long term with those as well. No real big studs pitching as far as that goes. Last year you had Corbin Burns, so you had early 7th or 8th round for Grayson Rodriguez and Eflin. I think Eflin is about 81-ish. Grayson, I have a little more faith. I really like Grayson. I think it is a bit of a gamble there as far as that. Hi, Dad. It's Alani. Hi, Dad.
Wow.
There you go. Anyway, Alani's in the stream there. That's my daughter since she wants to be in the stream there. All right. Also, Grayson and Zach Eflin that's about 7th, 8th round. Dean Kramer is a little bit later, 12, 13. I think he's a solid starter, so I don't think you're going to be, and you're really taking a shot with Charlie Morton and Sugano. I think that's definitely later. I think definitely you pick a pitching roster and then you pick those guys later. I definitely think that's the truth there with those guys. So definitely that's what you do with those guys there. The star of it, I think, is Felix Bautista. If you want a closer, little bit of an issue, obviously, with Felix because he didn't pitch at all last year. He sat out summer 2023 at the end, didn't pitch at all in 2024. But Felix, I think, might be a great love his vid. Sub to him, please, y'all, please. Yeah, there you go, Lonnie. All right.
Lonnie, stop.
And 8th, 9th round for Felix Bautista. I think definitely we all know how good Felix Bautista is. If we can get, I think some people are assuming he's not going to be great anymore. But it's definitely a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Maybe only once you start picking closer's kind of like kicker in football. Once they start going, they start going. And so the top, of course, is going to be Emmanuel Clase at the top there. Maybe a Josh Hader. Batista's right there, I think, 3rd, 8th, or 9th round. Definitely worth it, I think, to take a shot on Bautista because you might get the most saves in your league. There you go. All right. Thank you. very much for joining us here on the Ravery Sports Podcast this week. Definitely check us out for our podcast next week. Off-season NFL content as well, so definitely check that out going forward. You guys have a great week. Thank you, and y'all have a great day.